afternoon, honorable members. Good afternoon, honorable ministers. The session, the sitting resumes. Yes. Thank you. You may be seated. Continue with our questions and answers for the Honorable Minister of Justice. And we go to the June question. Question number 125 of 2020. Yes. By the Honorable Member for Opasano.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, does the Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Justice has any plans for data protection laws that would guide the government and other institutions on how to keep and make data available belonging to Gambian stores both in and outside the country?
Madam Speaker, I am pleased to inform the Honorable Member that the government is indeed in the process of drafting a data protection legislation for the Gambia with the assistance of the Council of Europe. I am sure that the draft legislation will be subjected to stakeholder consultations before it is brought to this Assembly. The government is also working on a draft cyber security legislation, and hopefully in the near future, these bills will be tabled before this August Assembly after consultations with relevant stakeholders.
Any supplement? Yes, Sarakunda.
Honorable Speaker, would the Honorable Minister consider consultation with local expertise before external consultation? Wouldn't that be the best approach in such situations?
Honorable Speaker, that is indeed the best approach under ideal circumstances. But when we do not have the funds or we're not aware of the expertise in this area, we rely on external assistance, which is then subjected to local stakeholder consultations to incorporate local content before we actually finalize the document. But yes, ideally, we should have the funding, we should have the expertise here locally as the first port of call. In the real world, unfortunately, we don't have these funds all the time, so we rely on external donors. Thank you.
Any further supplementary questions? No? Thank you very much. Then we move over to question number 126 of 2020 by the Honorable Member for Kiang Central. Actually, we received a notice that he's given authority for somebody else to read his questions, but I can't remember. The table office recorded it, so good. He has become enough. Well, at least you should have raised your tag.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, can the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice tell this August Assembly if there are plans or measures in place to extradite Gambian fugitives resident in Guinea-Bissau and Senegal for possible prosecution?
Madam Speaker, the TRRC, the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, is currently investigating human rights violations and abuses committed under former President Jammeh. At the end of its work, the TRRC will identify for prosecution those who bear the greatest responsibility for these acts. It is only at that point in time that the government will determine whether or not extradition requests should be made in respect of individuals identified by the TIRC and who are outside the country at that time. Thank you.
Any question? Yes, Jan Jambure, then thank you.
Honorable Minister, do we have any extradition treaty between Gambia and Guinea-Bissau?
Not yet, not to my knowledge, and we are actually working on that as well. But we certainly have one with Senegal, which honorable members will remember I have brought here for your consideration.
Honorable Speaker, would the Attorney General indicate whether there are indeed Gambian fugitives resident in these countries, or are we saying that the process of finding out whether some people could be identified as fugitives is what is on, and that if there is such a situation, then one can consider this issue of prosecution?
Honorable Speaker, I'm hesitating because the issue of fugitives is about tracking, and once you disclose information or knowledge about the whereabouts, then you create room for them to start to disappear again. If I'll crave the indulgence of the honorable member to excuse me from responding to this question, because, as I said, it's a sensitive matter, and we don't want to create a situation that will make it even harder for us going forward, if that is convenient to the honorable member. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more supplementary questions? No, thank you. I'm sure everybody had a good lunch. Eh? Thank you. Question number 127 of 2020 by the Honorable Majority Leader and Member for Komosau.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, can the Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Justice provide this August Assembly with a comprehensive list of the properties and assets of the former President Yaya AJJ Jammeh forfeited to the state pursuant to the recommendation of the Jammeh Commission?
Madam Speaker, the list of properties of former President Jammeh is a matter of public record. The government had published the entire 9 volumes of the Jammeh Commission report, and I respectfully refer the Honorable Majority Leader to Volume 3 of the report, where all the properties of former President Jammeh are listed. As I said earlier, there are 281 properties. Let me rectify what is here, 281 properties. The reason why we said 88 is because we included the ones for General Solbaji, but it's 281. A list of other assets marked A is attached herewith, and these assets have not yet been sold. I have attached the list of assets which we have marked A, and those assets have not been sold. They are all movable assets. Madam Speaker, this is volume 3. It's quite voluminous. You can imagine if we were to reproduce this volume in its entirety to all the members here, the cost. But I make reference to the volume 3. This is where the properties are contained in the Jammeh Commission report. Thank you.
Honorable Majority Leader, a supplementary question.
Yeah, the other, I think, Honorable Minister, is it possible to provide us with electronic copies of these volumes? Because these ones are also very expensive, and you know the cost that it takes for people to access them.
Honorable Majority Leader, you'll be pleased to know that we have been considering, making this report accessible electronically, password protected, of course. I think we will speed up that process, and we will provide the passwords when that is done to the honorable members of the Assembly. What we don't want is for people to have access to it and tamper with it, but I am advised that, as the IT experts know, you can have a PDF format which is read only. No one can interfere with it. So that's what we are working on. We will provide honorable members with access to this Jani Commission report online, electronically. Thank you.
Any more supplementary questions for? Yes, thank you.
The other part of my question, which was not included from the original that I sent to the table office, is what is your ministry doing with the funds that have been collected from the sale of the assets?
I believe I have already responded to that question earlier, that it's lodged in a special recoveries account, except $50 million, which has been paid to the TRRC Victims Trust Fund.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Minister, in respect of forfeiting the former president's asset, it is that the government entirely forfeited all his asset, or there is some asset left for him?
As far as I know, and as far as the commission established, the government has forfeited all known assets of former President Jammeh in this country. Having said that, I need to draw the attention of this August Assembly that the commission itself had indicated in its report that there may still be properties belonging to former President Jammeh out there which are unknown to the commission, because even as they were writing their final report, they were getting information about properties that belong to former President Jammeh, which was unknown to them previously. So as far as we are concerned, all the known properties have been forfeited.
Okay. Then we move over to question number 128 of 2020 by the Honorable Member for Funyi Bintang.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, can the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice inform this August Assembly how much forfeited assets of former President Jammeh were sold, whether they were valued for sale, and provide us with supporting documents of the sales, value price, sold price for each assets and properties, as well as the names of the buyers.
Madam Speaker, I refer the Honorable Member to my earlier response to the Honorable Members for Serekunda and Upper Salum about the number of assets sold and whether valuations were conducted before the sales. Madam Speaker, with respect to the Honorable Member's request for information on the value price, the sale price, and the names of the buyers, allow me for the record to point out first that these questions, in my humble view, amount to an attempt to conduct an audit of the sale process, which he cannot do. The responsibility to audit government activity lies elsewhere, and he must not confuse his oversight responsibilities with a power to conduct an audit. The Honorable Member cannot therefore, under the guise of a parliamentary question, seek to carry out a responsibility that does not belong to him. However, in order to allay his fears about this process, and since his party seemed to be very concerned about it, I will on this occasion only, and on an exceptional basis, provide the requested information to him, not out of any sense of obligation on my part or on the part of the government, but out of courtesy to him and respect for this Assembly. I would like to stress, however, that my act in this regard must not be regarded as a precedent. Madam Speaker, attached to this response and marked B, you will find the requested information about the valuation price, the sale price, and the names of the buyers for each property. Finally, Madam Speaker, I would like to draw the Assembly's attention that there may be issues of privacy rights in respect of the identity of the purchasers of the properties, who may have a right to keep their commercial transactions private, and we should all endeavor to respect that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I think my questions went further to say that he should provide also a list of the buyers. But what I've seen here is only the properties. But the assets, because if you could remember the tractors, the livestock, the vehicles, and other items were sold even before the end of the commission. But those were not provided. Why?
The information I provided to you, Honorable Member, contains the name of the buyers of the properties. When it comes to the assets that were disposed by the Commission, those were activities conducted by the Commission, which acted independently as an independent commission. I can seek to get the records of those sales from our huge archives that we have collected from the Commission